Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel. So I've got this gremlin guy, and he's kind of shuffling around and stuff, and I want to add a bit of UI to him over his head. So, for example, I could use a text displayer, and if I just click in there and click done, then it'll like render even though there's not really any text in there. And this could be like have a red background, and if we turn autofit off, then we can just like resize it and stuff. And I want it to go from the left to the right, so I'm going to have it left aligned. And now I can like animate this going across like that. But I want it to be above the character's head instead of just on the screen. So I'll go in here and turn on in scene and like move it around, and I want to rotate it. So I'll turn on allow rotation, or actually I want it to face the character, the player's view. So I'll turn on face camera, and now we put this on center for a second. You can see it has like this dashed line going to the center of it, and that point relative to the gadget won't change. So as it animates, it'll be above its head all the time, even if I'm like down here or above the character or whatever. And if we had it on left aligned so that I could animate the bar growing like that, it's going to the center is now the left point, and that allows it to work. But now if I put that on the center, then it's always going to be that spot above the head, and the bar is going to go a bit left of that and a bit right of that. But if we go left aligned, it'll always just go a bit right of it. So if you look over here, now it's not kind of central to the character, which isn't really what we want to happen. So I'll just leave it on center for now. Another problem is if we, so I'll just put this like that, left aligned, like that, and then have a second one that is wider. So this one to have a black background, and that's kind of like a background, so you can see that's 100%, so it's only at 50%. But now when I turn around, at the moment it's fine because they're in exactly the same spot, I think. So they're kind of looking okay. If that was in like a slightly different spot, then sometimes it kind of goes behind it, because one of them, it depends on where that spot is there. Whichever one is closest, that will be rendered on top of the other one. When we're around here, the black one is closer to the camera than the red one. So that's kind of messing it up, because it was positioned perfectly before that. Even when it's perfectly positioned, if I make this one the longer one, and make this one the shorter one, and make that one the red one, make that one the black one, that should be red. It depends on, so they're both in exactly the same spot, but it depends on which was made last, or which was made first. The one made first will be rendered first on top, and then the second one will be rendered beneath it. There are settings over here for sort order, but that only works if it's on the screen. So like when this red one has a lower sort order, it will be on top, and if it's higher than the black one, then it will be below. But that doesn't apply when it's in scene, so then that won't really help you. So you have to make it in a certain order or something. So this method won't necessarily cut it unless you're purely doing like one thing above the head or something. So there's a couple of other ways of doing this though. So let's make a copy, and this one will run around as well. But instead of this being in the chest, we'll have this be like a separate object, and we'll attach it to a block like that, and we can just make that invisible. And we want to teleport that to above the head of the goblin. So now we have a tag on it like that. If we turn off preview invisibility, we can see the block again. And we can teleport the whole thing to that spot above the head. So get a teleporter and we give that a name. So we'll call this G1 and we'll use that. So this is using that position to place that object. So now you probably want to move these down. Okay, so these are now set to left. So that's cool, but we want to have the angle of it be changed in a different way. So instead of relying on face camera, we'll turn that off. Okay, and then it's always facing like this way over here. So we want to turn the whole block to aim towards the camera. So if we use a look at rotator and then get a global settings gadget, it has a camera transform which includes the position, so it knows what view we've got and it's sending that out, and we can wire that into the target position. And I'll just make sure the arrow is pointing the right way. Use the grid and point it forwards. So now it's kind of rotating to face the camera. It's kind of gone lopsided because we haven't turned stay upright on. And to make it kind of get there faster, we'll turn all these up. Okay, and now as we move around, it's aiming towards the camera. Let's just turn the animation off for a sec. But it kind of takes a second, like a frame or two, to actually rotate to the correct thing, which isn't too bad. When it gets to the corner of the edges of the view, it's kind of it isn't flat to the view because it's got like this angle to it, because this is like rotating up, so you can have like a funny angle and that isn't looking the camera's direction properly at all. It looks very strange. So there's another method. Let's make a new one and let's copy that as well. So we'll just change this tag name to G2 and teleport to G2 instead. Okay, so this is working the same so far, but instead of using a look at rotator, I'm going to have a head tracker which moves with the view. So if I put that on the grid, if I go to test mode, I can move around and then pause and then exit test mode. And that is at the view that I had. So it's always keeping up perfectly. And I want a tag in here in the center of that. That's why I put it on the grid. So I'll grab the tag and press triangle to put it on a grid dot and then put it in the center of there. And then I'll give this a name. And now I'll teleport the position to above the goblin, and I'll teleport the rotation, the orientation, to the view. So now it's got the same orientation of the view. So if I just mess with this while time is running, it's kind of always staying parallel to the view, not rotating towards it, but staying parallel to it. So if I play in play mode, now it's perfectly keeping up with the orientation of the camera, and even at the edges and like from above, it's still matching properly. Whereas like from above, they're all like got different funny things going on. So another thing that games usually have is that UI and stuff stays the same size. So if I like zoom out and zoom in, when I'm up here, it's very large, and when I'm further out here, it's very small. But you may want it to stay the same size like it does in other games. So for that, I would grab this and scope it in. Let's just move this stuff so it's centered on the chip. Like that, and move it back a bit. Okay. This is like the smallest size, I guess. Now let's get a keyframe and scale it down, so that when you're really close to it, it will be smaller. And I kind of want it to be the same position. Cool, so if we now use a value slider and power it, At full power, it will be the smallest. At 0 power, it will be the same size as it was. And then halfway between, it will be halfway between the normal size and the smaller size that was recorded. So if we put a tag in here and call it proximity or something. We can wire that just into there. And then in our head tracker again, we can have a zone looking for that tag. So I'll put it into the position, put the center of the zone in the center of the head tracker, and then make this really small, and then L1 and drag it, and that will give it a fall off. You can see that in here, you got a zone fall off with L1 and R2. And then just R2, it changes the zone size, the core of the zone. So if you make that like really large, it'll depend on how you set this up. But now this will send out a value depending on how far through that trigger zone it is. Get that to look for proximity, up and down the D-pad. There we go. Okay, so as we get closer, it's turning up the thing, so we need to make that a lot larger, it looks like. Okay, and then it's going larger, so then this is compensating for how close we are to it. So it looks roughly the same size. Yeah, so depending on like how small you make it, you might want to adjust how it affects things, but that's like another step you can take if you want to. Oh, that chip needs to apply to the group now. Yeah, so cool. So those are like the 3 different methods of having UI that is in the scene but faces the camera, and then like a little trick to affect its size to make it seem like it's the same size all the time. And there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.